So what we want to talk about today is we're going to be talking about how do we align our programs and our goals to match business outcomes. A lot of the trends that we've been hearing, a lot of the challenges, thank you, Bev, for sharing the slides earlier, but a lot of the challenges that we're going to have are going to be pretty similar. So I guess today is making sure that you guys don't feel like you're going to be in a silo. Everyone's having the same things, and it's going to be nice to kind of hear from other people firsthand about what are their challenges, what are their experiences. There's going to be about a 10-minute Q&A session at the end, so if you have questions, feel free to write those down, and we'll kind of address those as well. Without further ado, my name is Scott Douglas. I'm Director of Accounts at TrustRadius, so I work with our account management teams and our client success teams, making sure that we align our value to a lot of the customer marketers we work with. So we work with customer marketers, we work with demand gen folks, so it's definitely interested to hear how you guys are structured as well. And then one of the things that we'll also do is making sure that we kind of get you guys more involved. I'd love to kind of hear more about what challenges you guys face as well. But with that, again, TrustRadius is a research and review platform focused for tech buyers as well. And with that, I'll go ahead and let the panelists introduce themselves, starting with Amanda.
Hey guys, I'm Amanda Elam. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer at Bloomreach. We are a B2B2C tech company that follows you around the internet and makes you buy things.
Similar to Amanda, my name is Andrew Sevilla. I'm the Senior Director of Customer Marketing and Advocacy at a company called Near. And like Amanda, we follow you around, but not just on the internet, wherever you go in real life. And
That's creepier.
Yep, it's creepy. And then find opportunities to present you with offers and ads that would appeal to you based on your shopping and retail and restaurant preferences.
We were supposed to say how big our companies are.
Oh, it's billions and billions of dollars. No, really. It's kind of a small startup. Yeah, maybe 500 employees. Yeah, heavy presence in Asia. Yeah.
And I also forgot we're about 1,200 and we're in 8 countries.
Okay.
All right. I won't have anything funny to say following you guys up, but my name's Shannon Cardwell, and I am the peer review program manager at IBM. And if you don't know what IBM is,
look it up.
Look it up, yeah.
Which division?
Yeah. Well, perfect. So this first question will actually go to all three of you guys. We'll start with you, Shannon. How does your organization define customer marketing? And then the follow-up to that is, what can you share, like what current program you have running right now?
Yeah, so I think customer marketing, I think it can be kind of defined in 2 different facets. I think there's the kind of install-based marketing, which we've talked about this, the way that you're currently engaging with customers, making sure that you're nurturing them to identify the opportunities to retain them, but also to expand them. And I think that sits more kind of in our demand gen part of IBM. I think the second facet is a little bit more on the advocacy side and more in the voice of the customer. And that's really where I focus all of my efforts. I run our peer review program, working very closely with TrustRadius and other peer review vendors in this space. And that's really all about how do you take a customer's experience, all of their positives and negatives, and really elevate that story and pull it through your entire marketing funnel. So how are you kind of putting a microphone to that story, and whether that's digitally syndicating it to your website, whether it's putting it in the hands of marketers and sellers, it's really giving that opportunity for that experience and that story to be reached by like-minded prospective customers that can really relate to it and be influenced and compelled by it.
Awesome.
That was an excellent answer.
Yeah, it was.
I don't know that I could add much to that. That was.
I think you will.
Yeah.
Probably because we talked before this.
You think I should? Okay.
I think you
I'll
will.
give it a shot. Yeah, I mean, I think the differentiation between install-based marketing and advocacy marketing, and there's this debate that's been going on for years. What is it? Customer marketing? Is it customer advocacy? I feel like customer marketing is kind of winning out, and then advocacy is sort of a rolling into customer marketing. But you hit the nail on the head. It's about the relationship building. It's about finding opportunities to gain trust so that your customers are open to sharing their experience. And like you said, the good, the bad, all of that information can be utilized, harnessed, right, for product improvement, for activating your customer success and your support and your training folks to identify folks that aren't having a great experience and then getting them to a place where they are having a much better experience and increasing their customer satisfaction. So voice of the customer content, though, I mean, that's what case studies, video testimonials, blog posts, speak on webinars, talk to an analyst, all the opportunities to kind of harness the voice of the customer. Yeah.
Okay, excellent. And Amanda?
I think we work with so many B2C companies that you really see where organizations are leveraging influencers and people who are actually using the product from a consumer perspective. And it's a little bit of a different lens, because what you see, what we would call in the technology space, we'd call them a user or a practitioner. And I think so I don't directly only oversee customer marketing. It's a function that sits inside of the marketing organization. But where I see customer marketing is really pivotal to the entire marketing organization. And I do believe that companies that understand how to leverage customers and how to build a customer community and how to connect with and use users and practitioners inside of the content creation and to create platforms for those users and practitioners to talk about and educate people around them. The companies that understand how to do that and use that, especially if you think about Slack and the fact we're all connected to Slack now with Customer Marketing Alliance as an example. We saw the resurgence or surgence, I guess, of Slack through COVID. Companies that understand how to harness this and build this are the brands that are going to win. So I actually think I have a product marketing and then performance marketing background, and those were certainly the darlings of the marketing teams over the last 15 or 20 years. I think the customer marketing function is going to be the function that drives brand preference and brand loyalty and brand awareness for companies, especially tech companies, in the future of marketing. So if holistic marketing teams aren't getting this right, those companies are going to really struggle competitively.
Yeah. So we're hearing a lot about customer marketing, advocacy, voice of customer. I heard upsell, retention. I'm hearing demand gen. In the past, customer marketing was always thought, it was an afterthought. Now we're trying to make a bigger splash within our organizations. How does your current company, where does customer marketing currently sit in your organization? Is it more of a demand gen? Is it more of a marketing role? Can you kind of describe that, Amanda?
Me.
Yeah, sorry.
That's okay. Yeah, customer marketing sits in two different areas, similar to what Shannon was saying. Yeah. We have a team focused on pipeline creation for upsell and cross-sell, and then we have a team focused in community engagement, where we're really trying to understand how do we leverage there's obviously a bunch of communications happening that we have zero control over. So how do we understand and engage in those conversations, and how do we make sure that we equip users and practitioners who are educating the market and who also happen to use our tools and services, how to talk about us in a positive brand way.
Okay. What about you, Shannon?
So I think I would kind of like to answer this question a little bit differently, because I think regardless of where it sits in your organization, I think the value, and certainly my favorite part about customer marketing programs, and specifically I'm speaking from a peer review program angle, is that there is a value prop for every single discipline that you are going to go talk to within your organization. So whether you're talking to product marketing, who's really trying to understand their end user and how their product is being used and those most valuable use cases, or you're talking to someone in digital who is focusing specifically on SEO and web page optimization and buyer behavior, or you're talking to someone in demand gen who needs to create good opportunities and see that pipeline progress, there is a value prop for these programs with those people. So to me, it doesn't really matter where you're sitting in the organization, as long as you understand your audience and who you're pitching it to, and you just align the work that you're offering up to them with the KPIs that they care about the most. And it makes it more fun too, right? Because there's so many opportunities to collaborate across your organization and to have an impact, regardless of where you're sitting.
Yeah, you can completely ignore my questions moving forward, so it's okay. That was a good answer. No. So, Andrew, you talked about a lot of the content you're responsible for creating, whether it's webinars, case studies, customer stories. With all the things that are kind of on your plate to do, and they're all equally important. Yeah. How do you kind of prioritize which programs you kind of choose first?
Yeah, that's a tough one. I think that, in the opportunity that I'm at right now, I'm not replacing someone and they didn't have an existing advocacy program. So it's a blank canvas, right? So I was thinking about like, what's the strategy? What are the steps? What's one, two, and how am I going to execute against them? And the one that I always kind of fall back on, because it's great for so many different areas across the business, supports so many areas across the business, is the peer review sites, the Trust Radius, the G2, that sort of thing. So kind of step one is like building out your profile, putting lots of engaging content that your prospects would want to read or to absorb to better understand who are the vendors in the category, right? Once you've got your profile well built out and you've got your CTAs on your profile pages, link those to a campaign in your CRM system so that you can track leads that are coming straight from your profile pages on the peer review sites. You can also scrape that for intent data so you can understand who's in the market, right? Who's in the like the consideration stage that's doing research on all the vendors in the space, and that supports your demand gen team, right? All the reviews that you generate, those are folks that you could recruit for your advocacy program, right? All the quotes and all the content that's in there, you can slice and dice that across industries or across titles or geos and that sort of thing. You can build all kinds of useful marketing content that, again, is going to drive your demand gen team, that your sales team can put in front of prospects. I mean, the first bet for me is the peer review sites. That's the first thing that I focus on. Yeah.
Wow. So it's like brand reputation. We just added another function to our role. So it's great. Okay, this is where I get you guys involved. I told you that to give you a heads up. How many people are actually using data, kind of like what Andrew talked about, in order to influence your decision? Are you guys using data, or are we just saying generic brand awareness? Data? Use your hands. Very, very small group of you guys. Okay. Shannon, you talked a lot about, not about where it sits, but how you kind of work with other departments. How do you get buy-in from those departments? And then more importantly, how do you find budget? Like, do you already get a budget? Do you have to scrape budget from other departments and kind of do a co-partner kind of thing? Can you kind of describe how that works?
Yeah, so I think, quantitative outcomes can speak for themselves a little bit, but I think when it comes to buy-in, I think you have to start small. I think you have to start from somewhere. So identify a use case that's either going to be a quick win, something that you could show, a quick path to success, and get that up and running. And as you go through that process, you're going to naturally gather buy-in from the people that you're working with. And once you have that success story kind of under your belt, it's that much easier to talk about budget, right? And to talk about scale. So I think it's very much start small and grow from there. I can definitely speak to that within IBM. The role that I have now is global across all of IBM offerings, which is a lot. But we started very small. When we started with Trust Radius just a handful of years ago, it was a small set of products. And we started the program from square one. And we said, okay, our quick win is going to be the digital work stream, really syndicating all of the content to IBM.com. So we had to focus very quickly on how do we get customers on the record, how do we get content in on a regular basis, and then we went and partnered with the digital team and said, here's what we can bring you, let's build this out. And we started with one widget. Let's build out the Trust Quotes API, if you guys aren't familiar with that. And it was one page, and we were able to show this is how engagement rate increases, this is how conversion rate increases, this is how time on page increases, bounce rate decreases, all of these great things that have a positive impact to SEO and the things that that organization cared about the most. And from there, we went to 2 widgets, and then 3 widgets. And then now today, we have it live on over 50 product pages across IBM, and it's become a standard for the digital practice. But we had to start somewhere, right? So I think it's start small, get your strategy in place, get the results against that, and then scale from there, and the budget will follow.
Okay. Amanda, I think this question has a slightly different spin. I think as CMO, you could probably use your title to kind of get buy-in. But even at a higher level, are you working with like VPs of sales? Or are you working with other operation teams or even client success teams to kind of make sure that they understand the value of using customer marketing?
Yeah, again, I think the focus for us is really what is the value that the customer is getting out of it. I think we get so focused on what is our company going to get from our customers, that we lose sight of what are we helping our customers achieve. And so we actually structure our KPIs a little bit differently in that they're focused on the value to the customer. And I think that this just helps, especially at the executive team level and the sales level, for everybody to rally around the promotion and the benefit for the customer. And that could be things like how many conferences did we promote them to speak at? How many certifications did we help them get? How many awards have we helped our customers win? How do we help them be celebrated and be rock stars in their own right? Because that remaining focused on the customer being the celebrity is super important, particularly for this function. Selfishly, that is because I believe the users and practitioners are the ones, as I mentioned, who are going to be the ones that influence the technology decisions you make. It's what we're doing right now. So we're Trust Radius customers, and we're talking about how much we enjoy your platform and your team. That means a lot more than any conversation they could have with you. Sorry.
That's perfect. When we're talking about budget, you probably have a top-down approach. How do you kind of determine where you want to budget different programs, whether it is more focused on advocacy or tools and partners you guys work with? How do you kind of decide that?
Yeah, so we do all of our modeling from whatever our finance ARR targets are all the way back to our cost per opportunity. And customer marketing does become a slice of that. So we say, what portion of this do we believe is going to be valuable enough to assign to the customer marketing organization and not assign a pipeline target to it? So there is a bit of a back and forth that we do. There is no doubt about it that customer marketing is a harder function to prove value. It's a longer term play. There's not direct opportunity association related to it, so there's got to be some belief. I happen to be a huge fan of excitement and enthusiasm and big whiz-bang program ideas, so I would be a little bit of the opposite of start small. If you came in with a small idea, I'd be like, whatever, but if you came in with like, we're going to do this conference and it's going to be amazing, I'm probably right there with you on that one. So I think understanding your audience, that is very important, aligning with the organization, KPIs, but then coming out with a perspective on how you're going to influence the market and essentially change the perception internally, as you mentioned, but also externally for your users and practitioners. If you can build that story, I think you can get the budget for it.
So we're remaining customer-centric. We're using data. We're leveraging existing KPIs. That sounds very attainable at larger companies. I know we have a lot of people here that are not in 500 plus companies. So I'm interested to kind of hear from you guys real quickly, how many, show of hand, actually have OKRs that are directed purely for your department versus just overall company OKRs? Do you have your own OKRs? Okay, more than half the room. That's really good. Shifting gears to more just customer focus related. Andrew, you mentioned that's probably one of the biggest priorities in part of your department. How important is it to use customer voice throughout the entire organization?
It's the most important thing.
That was easy.
So, I mean, really, here's my thing on this, is that your product marketing folks, they're going to talk about how your features and functionality are the best, the fastest, the most robust, better than all the competitors in your space. But it's really the voice of the customer that legitimizes, right, what you're saying about yourself. Folks are putting their name and their reputation on the line when they go and do a case study, or they get quoted in the press release, or they write a review, or whatever it might be. And so, yeah, that's my thing, is like it powers the PR team, the PR piece, the AR piece, the not just the product marketing, but the product management piece, right? Like where the product's going, right? Execs want to talk about use cases in their earnings calls, right? It used to be that like the customer marketing, customer advocacy thing was a nice to have, right? Like back in the mid 2000s. But now it's a must have. You have to prove to prospects that you can deliver on the promise that your sales team is making, or that your product marketing folks are claiming. So it's the most important thing.
Yeah. What about you, Shannon? How do you guys kind of leverage customer voice throughout the rest of your organization?
So yeah, I mean, I would echo what Andrew said. I think, with buyer behavior, we know that users want to self-serve almost their entire buying journey, right? Just like the research that you guys release. And in the past, we as a vendor could provide information to help with that research journey, but no longer are we being seen as trustworthy source of content. And so the voice of the customer is that much more important to supplant what vendor resources used to do. And it builds credibility. I think the second piece too is that it can kind of, I don't want to call it a burden, but I think it can lessen the burden of what might have traditionally been sitting within product marketing or content marketing in terms of the content that needs to be produced to then go sell to your prospective customers. This is content that can come in, on a daily basis from your customers across industries, across use cases, that can be then used to, power your marketing and your content engine. So I would say we're doing this across the board, very heavily integrated into our digital presence, our ecosystem. It's like I said earlier, it's a standard of our product pages, but we also are infusing it into all of our outreach materials that are used by our marketing campaign teams and our sellers, putting it in the hand of our sellers to use in all the conversations that they have with prospective clients too.
Nice. All right, quick show of hands. Last question for you guys, and then you can kind of go back to sleep. I know that guy's sleeping in the back. So is everybody here collecting, or I guess show of hands, who is collecting the voice of the customer right now on record? About 75, 80%. The other 20% should be fired. No, just joking.
Whoa.
Harsh, this is Vegas. Come on. So the next question, I guess, is, are you leveraging the voice of your customer, and can you interject it at different stages of your customer lifecycle? Are you doing that, Amanda?
Absolutely, and I think we have half of the vendors in that room in there at least, and we use we use a lot of tools like Gong and other things to automate capture, but then also as these guys were mentioning, it's critical to every part of our company. Product marketing, we have a monthly exec session where we go over win-loss. We have monthly customer calls. We all have objectives. Each of the executive team members have objectives to meet with customers, a certain number of customer meetings a month. So it's hugely important in our company. Yeah.
Along the same lines, Andrew, do you have visibility in your customer pipeline and kind of understand where the drops off are? And is that kind of how you prioritize your content and your overall customer marketing?
Yeah, I mean, well, to kind of piggyback off of what Amanda said, if you look at the buying stages, right, the education, awareness, consideration, right? Voice of the customer content is inserted at all of the stages, right? And so I can track, for instance, with the Gartner Magic Quadrant that we put in front of prospects, I can see which prospects downloaded that or clicked on that link or things like that. So at the education piece, yeah, at the consideration stage where they're doing comparisons between my product and somebody else's, I can see that in the intent data that we get from Trust Radius and the other peer review sites. And then at the buying stage, I'm recruiting folks to not only act as marketing advocates, but also as sales advocates, right? So, towards the end of the buying journey, the prospect wants to talk to one or two existing customers who have made the investment to ask the question. So I'm influencing that as well. And then, yeah, post, through their implementation, I'm tracking, did they complete the courses, right? Are they onboarded? Did they ramp up, right? Because I need customers to be wildly successful with my product before I feel comfortable offering them an opportunity to speak with an analyst or to do a webinar or whatever it is. And I love how you're hyper-focused on, giving opportunities or providing opportunities, a platform for customers to showcase their expertise and their knowledge. And one of the value props that when I'm onboarding a customer into the advocacy program is, we want to shine a light on you. We want to position you as a thought leader, as an industry expert. Because a lot of for me, I don't know about other people, but I don't have a ton of time to put out thought leadership pieces on my own. So if a vendor wants to work with me to do those things, it absolutely helps my career. It helps my professional brand, all that kind of stuff. So I don't know if I answered your question, but yeah, I'm definitely tracking all of the places, I guess. And there, yeah, you're right. I mean, there's kind of drop-offs, and so you sit down with the marketing organization and you try to figure out why are leads getting stuck at this stage, and then what do we need to do? Is there more content, or is there a different approach? Can we partner with our demand gen team to influence the kind of stories and the information, the voice of the customer content that they're utilizing to get the prospect from stage 3 to 5 or whatever, So, we're definitely doing that analysis and kind of thinking critically about how do we make that journey seamless. Yeah.
So like the methodology behind obtaining the voice of your customer is fairly simple, right? So we would all kind of understand our customer list. Maybe we want to segment based on what we're trying to promote or market. We can reach out to them manually, maybe send them an email. Maybe it's a customer we've already worked with before, and now we ask them to leave a review. So for a smaller company, it's a very manual process, but it's also very manageable. As we start to grow our companies and we start to get larger customer lists, how do you scale your programs when it talks about customer voice? Shannon? Do you dedicate certain teams maybe per customer voice, or is it broken down even more than that?
Yeah, so I think, again, I think I have a kind of a niche use case within customer marketing coming from the peer review angle, so I'll definitely lean on you guys to give your perspective as well. For us, where we've seen, I guess, kind of efficiencies of scale in doing this was just through centralizing our program. I think we knew that customer voice and customer interactions were happening across the business, but very much in silos, and we knew that there was an opportunity to streamline that work and make it more effective if we were to centralize all of those efforts into one, and that's what we've done. And so we have a dedicated lead for review generation that's just focused on running campaigns to bring in those customer reviews on a regular basis across all of our important offerings. We also have a digital lead who, again, is focused on infusing those stories, those testimonials in all of the places where they can have the most impact. And so through that kind of centralization, applying one strategy and framework that we had seen work in the past on a smaller scale across the business has allowed us to, I think we're up like 300% year to year in review growth alone. And as we have talked about, it's the gathering of the content that really feeds the rest of the pipeline, right? The rest of those opportunities.
Yeah. So Amanda, the same question. How do you scale your customer voice program?
Yeah, the easy answer is trust radius, right? Is that what I'm supposed to say? That's what I'm getting paid for?
I'm going to get my wallet out. Yeah.
But technology definitely helps, making it easy for the customers to answer a survey and fill out questions and have a standard. We have an awesome peer review or customer review person on our team who has created a lot of scale and automation and reminders and various challenges and rewards for our sales team and our AM teams to participate. But the reality is it's just really hard, and it's not something that you can scale really in mass in the same way that you can on the demand gen and performance side. So the expectation shouldn't be, I don't think, scale as much as quality. So how do you make sure that you're reaching out to your customers and you're getting quality reviews and content? Saying that, we did do over 60 case studies. We had double-digit increases in our review submission after becoming a Trust Radius customer. So there certainly is opportunity to scale, but volume increase, certainly from my perspective, just with star reviews versus the quality that you get with the Trust Radius submission is not the same thing.
So I'm going to go rogue here. So you talked.
Can I talk about this?
Yeah, please.
All right. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It's a struggle to get folks to do the reviews. And so, one of the strategies that we learned from our vendors was like, hey, hand over a list of 500 customers and we'll do the outreach for you, right? Yeah. And the industry, what I was told from Trust Radius and some of the other vendors was industry average was like 5 to 8% conversion rate on these email campaigns. Okay. I was seeing more like 1 to 3%. So like on a list of 500, I might get 5 to 15 reviews. And for each of these email campaigns, it's a 3-touch thing. So right. You are, in a sense, putting 1,500 emails out there, right, to your customers. And that's a lot, I mean, I already get enough email from my vendors, right? So I was like, that doesn't work, right? So we have, Influitive, right? And so we would put the challenges in Influitive, and that was like an always-on thing, right? So, as new advocates join your advocacy hub, they have an opportunity to write a review, which yielded some decent results. But what worked the best for me was kind of 2 things. So it's a SaaS product, right? So our customers have to log into our, go to our website to get into the product. So if we put the CTA for writing a review on the login page for the product, I would get 7, 8 new reviews a day. I mean, it was ridiculous. We were getting hundreds of reviews a quarter, right? And here's the thing, is that these are, and Trust Radius, I learned this, Megan Healy and I went round and round on, what is a representative sample of your customers that are getting reviewed. And here's the thing, is that these aren't high NPS, these are all your customers, right? So you're gonna get some one stars all the way through 5 stars, right? Hopefully you get more on the good end. But even for the ones that weren't great reviews, that was an opportunity to execute a play with your customer success and your support people and your training people to engage with that customer that's having a less than stellar experience and changing that, which reduces churn, right? So, if you rely on just 1 or 2 strategies, here's what I'm saying is, put the opportunity to write a review where your customers already are, as opposed to trying to bring them to you. Conferences are another great opportunity. We did a postcard. On the postcard, there was 3 QR codes, one for Trust Radius, one for G2, and one for Gartner Peer Insights. Handed out, and then the customer goes, home or back to their hotel room or whatever, and they write the review on their own time, right? And here's the beauty of it, is each of these reviews is $25. So in a sense, you could walk away with $75 from this one postcard, that I handed you at a conference. So, yeah.
Are you handing out postcards today?
Not today, no.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. So,
are you? You should be.
We'll be handing them out later.
Right.
$75 from you.
Yeah.
So I guess the takeaway there is we can't use email outreach alone to make sure that we start to think about different ways that we're interacting with our own customer list. So embedding in your own UX of your platform, if you're a SaaS product, working with either events team. I've even seen clients put it in their signature as well. So there's different methods and different tactics that we can kind of use, not just sticking with one.
Well, the other one is if at the end of a support ticket, when the support ticket closes, there's an automated email that gets generated and sent to your customer. That's an opportunity to ask for a review. Yeah.
And I like what you said about making sure that you're asking a full representation of your client list. I think we're all buyers ourselves, and we all do research. Obviously, Amazon is probably the one that comes to mind first for most people. And you ever come across a product that has all 5-star reviews? It's kind of suspicious, right? So I think it's important that we understand and give our customers the opportunity to kind of share any challenges or pain points they have. And kind of like you said, it also creates a feedback loop for your product teams. So I told you I was going to go rogue here on that last question a little bit, and I forgot what that was going to be. So you're welcome. What is a trend, a tool, a piece of technology that you guys use that really changed the way you've addressed customer marketing? Amanda, I'll let you start.
So,
Tools.
Yeah, we're talking about the integration between Trust Radius and 6 Sense and using intent data, which really our demand gen teams primarily use. Our customer marketing team does use it a little bit, but not as much. We do use Churn Zero as well, who I saw in there, and work with our AM and CSM teams to make sure that we're on top of that. We use HubSpot for our marketing automation and to build our segmentation to do our customer outreach and programs. So I think we're consistently looking for tools and channels. I'd say where we're putting most of our focus right now is how do we really begin to learn and engage in non-owned channels and the conversations that are happening with users and practitioners. And I know I keep talking about that, but it is top of mind for me, particularly in this category of marketing. And where do we begin to insert and support and validate conversations that are happening in our space? And how do we provide education? I think coming from the content marketing space, we all, especially tech vendors, lost a ton of credibility because all of us know you fill out a form and it's 95% of the time completely worthless content. Right. And so how do we reset what education actually is? How do we actually teach and inform someone in a space as a technology vendor? Because the reality is we do learn a lot. I work with 850 B2C brands all the time. So we learn a ton about trends and what's happening. We have over 1 billion transactions that are happening on our platform, so we have access to all this data. But how do we provide it in a actually credible and useful way if we're not practitioners? And the reality is we can't. You don't want to hear from the technology vendor. You want to hear from people who are living it every day. So I'd say what we haven't solved yet, but are in the middle of trying to solve is exactly that. How do we create an education framework that's not tied to our brand in any way, but provides real value for users and practitioners in our space.
What about you, Andrew? Is there a new tool that you came across or
Yeah,
something?
I don't think it's probably not new, but one of the things that we're doing is we're capturing these voice of the customer, content pieces. And so how do you do that, right? Well, you got to talk to customers. So for all of the interviews that I do, and you did 60 case studies in a year or something like that. That was my MBO. I had to do 15 per quarter. Right? So that's from interview through, publishing the final story on the website. And so for all of these interviews, we're recording them so we can get the transcripts, right? And from the transcripts, we crank out the case study, the blog post, and possibly a press release if it's a really amazing story. So I use rev.com to do all the transcriptions. And what I like about it is that it's it's a warehouse or an archive of all the customer interviews that I've done going back, from the beginning of me starting with the company, right? And so if anybody ever comes to me and says like, hey, did we ever talk to a customer who mentioned, close automation using Flowcast? And I'm like, let me find out, right? And do a quick keyword search, and turns out we have, over the course of 4 years, we've done 7 interviews with customers that mentioned that, right? So that's something that makes me look like a genius, because I'm like, yeah, of course we have that. Here you go, here's 7 of them. You wanted 1, here's 7, right? And so, yeah, that just makes, and then obviously you can, identify those 7, and then you can build content around all 7 of their, use cases. So yeah, rev.com.
Because it made you look like a genius.
It made me look like, I need all the help I can get. So,
Well, let me help you here, because my next question deals with something that none of us like to talk about, and that's failure. Is there a program that we've ran recently, doesn't have to be recent, that just flat out didn't work? And you could blame your coworkers about why it didn't work if you want.
I mean, I've got one. I don't know. Yeah.
You'll all get an opportunity to talk about your failures. Don't worry.
Yeah, I mean, we implemented an advocacy platform and didn't properly staff the role, right? And so didn't, I guess, recognize or realize, like, this isn't a part-time job, right? This needs to be somebody's focus, at least 75% of their day needs to be focused on care and feeding and updating and interacting and doing that sort of thing. And so as a result, the platform, like, it took off and we got a lot of, advocates to join and all that. But the person who I had hired to, be the admin, she left the company, and that was a bigger hit than than anything else, I guess, is losing a really good person. That to me was kind of failure. Yeah.
So it almost feels like we shouldn't be, not all of us have this luxury, but not so single-threaded in how we kind of roll out our program, so that way you have crossover within your own teams to make sure, is that fair in saying?
Yeah, I think, absolutely. If, for these advocacy platforms, if you can bring in folks from your product marketing team, from your demand gen team, from, to really buy in and be a part of, again, that care and feeding and ongoing maintenance and support of it, then it doesn't fall squarely on the shoulders of like one person to carry the load of like I said, it's not a one-person job. Yeah.
So it also sounds like it's important to make sure that we're scoping our programs and priorities to make sure that whatever you're expecting is going to be aligned to the resources you have internally. Shannon, what about you? Do you have a failure top of mind?
Yeah, I guess mine would be the LinkedIn integration with intent data that Trust Radius offers and G2 offers as well. So you can basically feed all of the company data, all the companies that are researching your products or related products, your competitors. You can feed those audiences directly into LinkedIn and run campaigns off of that, which is great. So we recently tested that out, and one of the most attractive parts of that is the agility, right? The speed within IBM to get a media campaign out. We're talking about a lot of processes, a lot of barriers, and so it was very attractive to think of being able to test that out very quickly. But I think we sacrificed quality for that speed. We didn't really focus as much as we should have on really understanding that audience, the audiences that we were leveraging, and really surfacing up content that was going to resonate the most with them. So we didn't see the results that we wanted, and budgets got cut before we got to make any optimizations. So I think
was that something that you worked with, like your digital marketing team? Is that kind of where that part of that feature and function sat? Is that?
It was with my media team.
Your media team. Okay. And Amanda.
If it makes you feel any better, LinkedIn is the first channel I always cut.
Because the cost?
It's so
or?
expensive.
Okay,
It's
the cost.
crazy expensive. And none of you guys like to convert on LinkedIn. Me neither. So I'd say a failure for us. So I came from a company called Exponia. We were acquired by Bloomreach in January of 2021. And we had this idea that we could sell our products into each other's customer bases fairly easily, and we'd immediately see some revenue uplift from existing customers, and we'd hit this magical cross-sell number. But what we did not do was think about whether the customer cared about it or not, and they did not. They were very different personas. One was more on the e-commerce side, the other one was on the marketing side, and it really, and you guys know this better than any of us, I'm sure, when you're approaching an existing customer relationship as though they are a net new relationship, that is not going to work, because they say, I don't want to talk to you about this new thing you have because your old thing isn't working all that great. So give me a bunch of money to fix this, and maybe I'll talk to you about this other thing. So I think, again, it's so important, especially with existing customers, to remember that it is a relationship. It is, let's say, even a marriage where you need to manage it and handle it super carefully and be really intentional about every single engagement, and that it is not, at the end of the day, about the business objectives and KPIs, but really how do we put the customer at the center and the forefront, or what are they looking to do? And every time we forget that, we fail.
Well, perfect, because we've come full circle. That was the first response I think you had today, was talking about making sure we keep the customer focused first and not kind of get caught up in these KPIs or OKRs that are set by someone who's sometimes even outside of our current departments. We have about 5 minutes left. I want to get you guys some questions. I have one last one-word response needed from each one of you guys. How would you end the sentence? Customer marketing is blank.
Teamwork.
Teamwork.
Is marketing.
Customer marketing
Is marketing.
It's the glue that holds everything together.
Awesome, I like that. I like your marketing too, though. Any questions from the
You
crowd?
don't have to be nice to me.
Any questions?
You got some right here.
Oh, they're in front of me right here. Thank you. So does it make sense to go from 0 to trust radius right away? Is it beneficial or harmful to use free or more expensive options to work towards a TR-driven program?
So we did this. We went from 0. I did not want to approve the budget for Trust Radius, actually. Our reviews team came and was like, hey, I think we really need to add Trust Radius to the mix. And I was like, no, what difference does it make? We have all of them. We have G2, we have Gartner, we have all the things. And we got on the phone with the sales rep. He opened a PowerPoint, and I was like, I'm leaving the call, not doing it. Vinay, the CEO, got on the phone and walked through why it mattered, why it was important, why quality made a difference. We talked through the widgets, the experience from the customer's perspective. What it came down to was actually two things, the quality and the value to the customer. And there was a significant difference in what Trust Radius offers versus what you get really from any of the other platforms. And what has happened as a result of that is, because of the quality of information that we get back from Trust Radius, is it does make a lot of our programs a lot easier. So our win-loss programs, where we start with our customers, which you were talking about from an advocacy perspective, it's actually been a super foundational element for us building out the voice of the customer program throughout our company. So I'm glad we made the decision. They did also make a lot of good commits to us at the beginning and said, if you guys don't end up seeing the value, we realize there's a big uplift at the beginning of this. We're going to be your partner along the way, and they absolutely have been, which is why I'm here.
Amanda, true or false, you love receiving phone calls from other company CEOs?
Well, it depends on why they're calling.
So what tactics do you use to drive feedback, customer feedback, reviews? I think we talked a little bit about this, whether it's embedding links to ask for reviews or emails, events. We talked about webinars, pop-ups inside your UX. But how important are the actual ratings and reviews that are tied to that feedback? Anyone can answer.
I mean, I think you want to be the leader. You want to have more positive reviews than any of your competitors in your category, because you can tout, right? You get a badge, you can put it all over your website. I mean, it's a distinction, But I think there's, like Amanda was saying, there's a difference between, quantity and quality. And some of the review sites don't really care as much about quality or even moderating like how legit these reviews are. Whereas I feel like Trust Radius it's in Vinay's DNA. He really is focused on these are legit. These are real, people who are actually using your product. And that gives so much more credibility, right, to these reviews. And what I love about the whole review space is that none of what your customers are saying or they're writing about you goes through any kind of marketing spin, right? Or, make sure to include these product messages, right? Unlike a case study or something else like that. So these are direct from end users, and you're not involved in crafting the message at all, right?
Yeah. So credibility is definitely huge when you're talking about acquiring feedback from your customers. So this next question is for Shannon. With the amount of reviews that you guys get for IBM, I think this question deals with being anonymous. Do you get value out of that, or does that kind of throw a wrench in your plans?
No, not at all. I think any customer feedback is valuable feedback. So we syndicate both public and anonymous reviews across all of our website. I would say we focus more on the actual content that's being pulled through, right? And one of the great things about Trust Radius is the ability to ask custom questions so you can get very pointed feedback from your customers about the things that make your products different than your competitors, about your differentiators. And how great is that to have your customers talk about why those features and benefits are better than what IBM can say about ourselves. So yeah, we focus more on that part of the content customization, whether it's public or anonymous.
Okay. Andrew, you mentioned, and we talked a little bit about this earlier, about making sure that you have a fair representation of your customer base. There's going to be that bad review.
Yeah.
How do you manage, especially your stakeholders, on addressing poor reviews?
Yeah. So I, build really strong relationships with the leadership in the customer success side, as well as with support and training, right? So if the customer chooses not to remain anonymous and they, give us some inkling of who they are, then I can find out who's their customer success rep. Reading the review, is it that they don't know how to use are they stumbling because they don't know how to use the product properly? I mean, that's a training thing, right? Mm-hmm. So it's a combination of activating training, support, and the customer success rep to understand, to go in and look in your CRM system and go like, okay, when did this person join? Do they have open support tickets, right? Like we have to do kind of a root cause analysis of what's leading this customer to have a less than stellar experience. And like I said, once you've activated that plan to change that customer's experience, typically those customers become some of your strongest advocates, right? Because you've shown that, companies say we're customer centric. What does that mean really? You like to have customers? Okay, but does it mean that you really are invested in their success and ensuring that they're having an experience where they want to tell their peers and their groups and their network about the value that they're getting and so I think when you activate a plan like this, you are truly customer centric. Yeah.
I would also say that I think the definition of the word negative is a little bit different in the review space as well. I think if you look at, let's say, a 7 out of 10 or even a 6 out of 10 at face value might seem negative, but you actually go through the feedback that's provided by that customer, there's a lot of really insightful feedback about their use case, about how they're using the product, about the positives and the negatives that another prospective customer can still learn from, right? Can still relate to because it's a similar use case or they're in a niche industry or whatever it may be. And then your product teams as well are able to get that insight and that feedback about how their products need to improve and use it to guide your roadmap. So even though it may seem negative at face value, there's so many derivative benefits from that.
Yeah. Each of you mentioned about making sure that we have influence in other parts of our department, especially as it starts to relate to demand gen, upselling, cross-selling. The whole point of this discussion today is making sure that we're aligning our customer marketing programs to our business outcomes. And I think there's both a positive and a negative spin about making sure that we're now going to be held reliable to influencing a certain amount of revenue, user base installs, or whatever the case may be. But more specifically, when we're talking about customer voice, how do you leverage that? Because we talked about different stages of the buying process. How do you leverage that specifically around expansion or cross-selling for your clients?
Okay, so
Lunch is very
What's the
simple.
magic
yeah.
formula?
Okay, let me run through this real quick. Customer A buys product A. Customer B buys product A and B. We want customer A to, we want to sell them product B. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a story on customer 2, right, that bought A and B. And then I'm going to put that in front of customer 1 that says, hey, you both made this initial investment. They added this other piece, and here's the additional value that they're getting, right? And we've documented the metrics. They're faster, whatever it might be. And so that's like one asset, I guess, that we're putting in front of our demand gen team when they're doing install base marketing. Yeah.
You could also leverage the intent data to say customer 2 or B, whatever it was, has been researching, product A or product A alternatives, right? And so we see that there's an opportunity, there's a hunger for this already. Let's capitalize on that and put it in front of them.
Awesome. All right, last question. I know we're at time. So ultimately, when you're evaluating different sites to create content, get reviews, can you talk about those sites that you either evaluated and then why you chose, whether it's Trust Radius or G2 or Gartner Peer Insights? Those are some of the main ones. Can you kind of talk about the differences of those and why you chose what platforms you work with?
I would do as many as you can.
I agree. I think you kind of need to be on all of them. Don't let that overwhelm you. Start small, but your prospects are on all of them doing research, and you want to show up when they're in that mindset to learn and be influenced.
Awesome. Well, go ahead, Andrew. You have to have final word. Go ahead.
I was going to say, it used to be called IT Central Station, and now it's called PeerSpot. And I'm starting to pay more and more attention to them as well.
Okay, that's awesome. Well, thank you. I know we didn't get through all the questions, so what we'll do is we'll try to answer those after the fact. You guys have been great. Thank you for your attention. Let's give it up for the panelists.